After the scintillating performances of See the Stars in 2009, 2010 was always going to struggle to match the previous year's achievements. But thanks to the likes of Workforce, Harbinger and Snow Fairy, it came mighty close. And I'm here joined by Paul Wheeler, who's cast his eye over the year's happenings in horse racing world. And Paul, we'll start with the horse that visually put up the best performance of the season in the King George, Harbinger, who won that race by 11 lengths.
Yeah, and as you say, Lewis, I think you can truly say that was a vintage performance. Pick your own superlative. Any one of them will do, because it wouldn't be too high a compliment to that horse and the way he won that day. As you said, 11 lengths. A record for the race. Previously it was 7 lengths by Generous in 1991. I mean, the real sadness, and you could almost call it a tragedy if you like, was the leg injury just a fortnight later that robbed Harbinger of the chance to really press his claims as one of the elite horses of recent decades. But when you look at it, that performance alone rated him at 135, which means he will top the rankings in the World Thoroughbred rankings for the year.
So yeah, it was an amazing season for Harbinger. It was just pity to say about the injury. A horse that finished 17 lengths behind Harbinger in that race in the King George was Workforce, who was also trained by Sir Michael Stout. He had an amazing season as well, Workforce, despite that flop in the King George.
Well, you could actually probably say Workforce this season had the sort of test for both him and Sir Michael Stout. I mean, it was amazing. As you say, he ended the season by winning the Derby. And then, having flopped in the King George, being written off by most except for Stout, let's remember, then goes and wins the Arc. And the amazing thing is that really he's a horse that you can't honestly say you've seen the full range of his talents. But the great thing is, they're keeping him in training for this season, so we will have another go with him. Get to see what we can really do. It could be even better, you never know. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how he gets on next season. The story of the season, from a Meteoric Ride's perspective, has to be Snow Fairy for Ed Dunlop, who announced herself as one of the best fillies in the world, didn't she? With was it 4 Group 1 wins in the end?
Absolutely. I mean, putting it into perspective, when we talk about the millions that get spent in this sport, she went through the ring for €1,800 as a yearling. She then goes and wins the Oaks, Irish Oaks, 2 Group 1s in Hong Kong and Japan. Thank you very much. Not bad. And she's back next season. They're thinking of starting off in the Dubai World Cup. She's going to be fun to follow. And also a quick mention for 2 other big performers this season. Goldikova, and my personal favourite, has made me quite rich this year, Camford Cliffs. Yeah. No, you were on Camford Cliffs earlier.
Yeah, one to follow. I did say that.
No, give you credit for that. I mean, yeah, Goldikova, she's coming back for a 4th consecutive attempt at the Breeders' Cup Mile, Churchill Downs in November, and along the way, every chance that she and Camford Cliffs are going to clash, you'd walk a long way to see that. It's going to be great.
So Paul, with so many older horses at the top of their game this year, you've got the classic generation coming through. Are they going to find it tough to live up to the form shown by the older horses this season, do you think?
Well, it's going to be the great thing to find out, Lewis. The interesting thing first is going to be the classic generation sorting themselves out. I mean, we ended up last year, the Dewhurst was supposed to be the race. It was going to determine everything. You had Frankel, Dream Ahead and Samid all clashing. Perfect. 3 unbeaten colts, all with sky-high reputations, all backed up by the form book. I mean, I think it was always going to be a bit much when somebody described it as the race of the century. I think that fella had his finger on the button marked hype for just a little bit too long. Of course, as it turned out, Dream Ahead and Samid really didn't show up, and Frankel goes and wins the race. It's a slight case of so what, but you can't take anything away from the winner. I don't care what anybody says, and let's face it, he's actually been improving since his last run without doing anything. Because straight after the race he was rated at 123. Now he's up to 126 for the simple reason that Clamour, who he beat by 10 lengths in the Royal Lodge, went on and won the Horace Hill Stakes. And Roderick O'Connor, who was second in the Dewhurst, then went on to win the Grand Criterium at St. Cloud. So Frankel's actually got to be a better horse by doing absolutely nothing. A bit like you and I.
Well said, sir. There's obviously a lot of hype surrounding Frankel for next season, Paul. So what's next for him? Is he going to go to the Guineas and the Derby? Well,
as you say, Frankel, he's the market leader for both the Guineas and the Derby, even though Henry Cecil has expressed some real doubts about the horse's stamina. But you've got to look at it this way. He's not actually dismissed the idea of going for the Derby. So if Frankel puts up a suitably impressive performance in the Guineas, maybe wins by a couple of lengths, who's to say Henry won't turn around and say, I think I fancy a crack at a 5th Derby winner. You never know.
So it's certainly going to be another fantastic season of action on the flat, and it'll be interesting to see if Frankel can live up to his potential shown last season. But as we know, potential doesn't make a horse a classic winner. Just look what happened to St Nicholas Abbey.